Gavin Newsom Democratic. The 2021 California gubernatorial recall election is a special election on whether or not to recall Governor Gavin Newsom from office and, if he is removed, to select a candidate to replace him for the remainder of the term, which ends in January 2023. The election follows the same pandemic-era format used in the November 2020 general election. In August, county election officers sent an official ballot to the mailing address of every registered voter for the option to vote by mail on or before Election Day, September 14, 2021, when polling places will be open statewide for the option to vote in person. Voters' ability to recall an elected official in California is the result of progressive era reforms enacted in 1911 alongside the introduction of the ballot initiative and women's suffrage. The 2003 recall election was the first time a gubernatorial recall attempt led to an election in California and resulted in the successful recall of Governor Gray Davis, who was replaced by Arnold Schwarzenegger. The 2021 California recall is the fourth gubernatorial recall election to successfully make the ballot in American history, the others being the 1921 North Dakota gubernatorial recall election, the 2003 California recall, and the 2012 Wisconsin gubernatorial recall election. California is the only U.S. state to have had two gubernatorial recall elections. CNN, CBS News, NBC News, The New York Times, and others have all projected that Newsom has not been recalled. Following their ascension into power in 1911, California's progressive Republican reformers introduced direct democracy via the recall, to weaken the influence of private interests and restore, according to newly elected Governor Hiram Johnson, the people's rule. As of 2021, California is one of 19 states to allow recall elections. Under state law, any elected official may be subjected to a recall. To trigger a recall election of a statewide elected official, proponents must gather a certain number of signatures from registered voters within a certain time period. The number must equal at least 12% of the votes cast in the previous election for that office. Based on the previous gubernatorial election, the 2021 recall petition required 1,495,709 signatures. When the Secretary of State confirms that a recall petition meets the required number of signatures, a recall election must be scheduled within 60 to 80 days. If the petition qualifies less than 180 days prior to the next regularly scheduled election, then the recall becomes part of that regularly scheduled election. In the case of a recall against the governor, the responsibility for scheduling the recall election falls on the lieutenant governor, which for 2021 is Eleni Konalakis. Prior to this election, the only other gubernatorial recall attempt in California to qualify for the ballot happened in 2003, which resulted in Gray Davis being replaced by Arnold Schwarzenegger. This election is the result of one of 179 attempts to recall a state-level elected official in California since voters gained the right to recall in 1911, one of 55 attempts to recall a governor, and one of 6 such efforts to remove Newsom. Every California governor since 1960 has experienced some form of a recall attempt. Of the 10 prior recall attempts on state-level elected officials in California which led to special recall elections, 6 ultimately resulted in their removal from office by voters. This recall election is the fourth gubernatorial recall election ever held in the United States, the other 3 being North Dakota in 1921, California in 2003, and Wisconsin in 2012. During Newsom's tenure as governor, a total of 7 recall petitions were launched against him. On February 20, 2020, the petition which led to the 2021 recall election was served against Newsom. It stated, "People in this state suffer the highest taxes in the nation, the highest homelessness rates, and the lowest quality of life as a result." The timing of the recall attempt coincided with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. The basis for previous recall attempts included the state's universal healthcare and laws regarding illegal aliens and homelessness. On June 10, 2020, Then Secretary of State Alex Padilla approved petitioners' petitions for circulation. The recall petition focused on a variety of grievances, on issues such as sanctuary policies, homelessness, taxes, and water rationing. Newsom's official response to the petition touted his support for funding education, health care, and infrastructure, noted the state's fiscal health, and warned that the recall campaign was a partisan attack that would result in a costly election. The recall campaign hired a political consulting firm in late June 2020. And the initial plan was to pay circulators to collect signatures, to ensure a successful validation. The recall campaign sought to gather 2 million signatures. Given the difficulty,